A little boy went to school and told his teacher, "I'm worried about my mom and dad." When the teacher pressed for details, he told her how hard his dad worked to provide for them, make sure they had food and clothes. Then he talked about his mom, how much she worked around the house, cooked his meals, cared for him when he was sick. Said all these wonderful things about his parents. And finally the teacher asked him, "What are you worried about?" And the little boy said, "I'm afraid they'll escape." Parents, have you ever felt that way? Like you just want to escape? Well, I was working on this message, and mom and dad came into my office. Their son is far away from God, making horrible choices with long-lasting consequences. Not just for him, but it's affecting the entire family. It's heartbreaking to watch. And no matter how determined they are to not enable their son, they still can't change the fact that he's their son and they're his parents. Parenting can be a challenging, maddening, sometimes heartbreaking burden. But it's also filled with moments of laughter and fun and joy. Cindy and I raised 2 boys, Tyler and Parker. I have so many memories from when they were little. And weren't they cute then? It's just... When Parker was about 4 years old, we went out to eat with an important official in the Assemblies of God. And Parker was known as a kid for being really messy and more than a little crazy. I mean, it was so bad that the place we went every Sunday to eat, they would bring out a tarp, a 6x6 tarp. They would put a high chair in the middle of the tarp, and we would set Parker in it. And when he was done eating, they would fold the tarp over the high chair, take it all outside, and just hose it down. They had experienced Parker. And so that night, I wanted so bad everything to be perfect. I warned him. I threatened him. I promised him a prize if he'd just be good for just one meal. And he did it. He was a perfect angel. It came time to leave, and I said, "Parker, come say goodbye to Brother Crabtree." And he marched around the table and stuck his hand out like a perfect gentleman. And that's when I noticed that he had a grilled cheese sandwich stuck to the middle of his forehead. He made it that long. Parenting Parker was such an adventure. We went whitewater rafting one time on vacation, and it was early in the season. The water was 42 degrees. And so our guide jokingly said, "Water's 42 degrees. Does anybody want to swim?" Parker ripped his shirt off and dove in the water and took off swimming. Everyone just looked at him like he was an idiot, including me. One morning when he's in 3rd grade, I used to drive him to school. And in 3rd grade, one morning I was running a little late to take him to school. And when we got in the car, he looked at me and said, "You're late. You're going to have to go to bed earlier tonight." 9 o'clock for you, mister. I said, "Son, it's because we were wrestling last night and I was tired." He said, "There you go, blaming other people." I gave some kind of feeble response again, and my 3rd grade son looked at me and said, "It's not the being late that bothers me, it's the lying." He said, "That's the part we really have to work on." Parenting's awesome, isn't it? 2005, Tyler went with me on a trip. I was speaking at the Dream Center in Los Angeles. And we decided to go early and do kind of a baseball dream trip. So we went to San Francisco and we watched the Giants. Even though I hate the team, we loved the stadium. And they were playing God's favorite team, the Dodgers. So we enjoyed that. And then the next night, we drove to Anaheim to watch the Angels. And we got there and I got the tickets out. And I don't know how it happened. Somehow I bought tickets to the wrong night. And I had tickets the night before. And they weren't cheap. Tyler was devastated. And he was just determined we still had to go to the game. So I went to the ticket booth and I said, "Just give me the best seats I can get." And it's a crazy story, longer than I have time to tell. But somehow we ended up with the owner's seats. We were sitting on the front row, resting our arms on the top of the Angels dugout. And as Angels players came and went, Tyler would shout out to them and they would answer Tyler. At one point, I heard somebody behind us turn to the person next to him and said, "Who is that kid?" Then in between innings, one of the players gave Tyler a baseball. Again, everybody around us is jealous, which I was loving. And then Garrett Anderson, star rookie outfielder for the Angels, broke his bat on a pop fly to the outfield. And Tyler had been trying to get Garrett's attention the entire game, calling out to him, trying to get something from him. And this time, when Garrett came back to the dugout, he took his bat and he rolled it across the dugout to Tyler. "This is the bat." Tyler was crying. I was crying. It was the ultimate evening for somebody who loves sports. Tyler loves sports. One day on the way to school, he said, "Dad, when I have $1 billion, I'm going to buy the Dallas Mavericks." That sounded good to me. So I started asking questions. Will you give me front row seats? Will you send your jet to bring me to the games? He said, "Dad, I'll go to every games, but not on Sunday." I said, "Son, when you get $1 billion, remember, take care of your pastor. Because if you honor your pastor, God will honor you." And Tyler said, "Dad, I will. I'll always take care of my pastor." Now I'm Tyler's pastor. And he's kept his word, except for the jet and the front row seats and the $1 billion and owning a basketball team. But he honors his pastor. And both Tyler and Parker honor me and Cindy. It's a good thing because I don't want them breaking the fifth commandment. Fifth commandment begins the second section of the 10 commandments. The first 4 teach how to love and honor God and put him first. The rest of the commandments now are instructions for relationships with others. And God started with the very first relationship you have in life, your parents. Now, before we go on, I recognize not everyone has a loving mom and dad who raised them from birth. Some of you are raised by single parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, godparents, family, friends. As we discuss this, rather than focusing on what you don't have, think about how you can honor the person or the people who raised you. The fifth commandment says, "Honor your father and your mother so you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you." This is the only commandment that has both a command and a promise. God gave God gave children of all ages a command concerning how to treat their parents, and then he described the blessing that follows the obedience. This is not a commandment to be forgotten or ignored. In fact, Paul repeated this commandment and added to it in both Ephesians and Colossians in his instructions on how to establish a godly, Christ-honoring home. Ephesians 6:1, Paul wrote, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you and you may enjoy long life on the earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord." Then Colossians chapter 3, "Wives, submit to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord." And oftentimes husbands want to stop right there. But the next verse says, "Husbands, love your wives and don't be harsh with them. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they'll become discouraged." So obviously this commandment is important. And I want to slow down and look at it. Honor your father and your mother, so you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. The first and most important word is honor. I've given honor a lot of thought as the next core value of our church. Honor seems to be a lost art in our society. If you disagree with someone, you no longer feel the obligation to honor them, respect them, or even honor their office. The prevailing thought is, well, I can't honor somebody if I don't agree with them on every issue. And so honor has been replaced with anger, prejudice, hate, deception, and polarizing opinions. Anyone and everyone is fair game for another angry social media rant. But God's word must take precedence over our dysfunctional culture. As followers of Jesus, we have to be different. Your attitude, your words, your behavior cannot be excused by or subject to the emotion of the moment. Honor is commanded by God. Maybe if we teach and learn honor in our family, that will carry over to other relationships in our society. If you can't honor at home, you'll never honor at work, school, church, social media, or, Lord help us, politics. On a regular basis, we have people from other churches that come and observe our church and team. And one of the most common observations is, you really love each other. I wasn't sure if it was true, but you really do. In just a few days with us, they sense and see honor. The dictionary defines honor as high respect. They sense and see the high respect, the honor we give and have for each other. It's not one thing we say or do. Instead, it's an attitude. It's a decision. It's an important core value of our team. I choose to honor Pastor Brad because I have high respect for him. I honor Rita Russell because I have high respect for her. The high respect I feel becomes honor I express through words and actions. Honor is a choice. You don't automatically honor someone. You don't automatically honor your parents. Instead, you choose to obey God's command to honor. God said, honor your father and your mother. Having a kid is expensive, time-consuming, and challenging. And every parent said, amen. Your parents deserve to be honored for the sacrifices they make. They sacrifice their wants and their needs and their time and their money to provide for you. If you're a kid, you don't know how expensive diapers are. You won't find out till you're a parent. But your parents, they spend unbelievable amounts of money on you from the time you're born. Honor your father and mother so you may live long in the land the Lord your God's given you. Now, that's a pretty powerful incentive. Honor your father and mother and live a long life. But this verse is not intended as a threat or a weapon to use against children. You better honor me. I brought you into this world. I can take you out of it. Listen, kid, if you want to live a long, happy life, you better be right. God's going to get you. That's not the intent. Maybe God knows how difficult parenting can be, so he attached a reward. Or maybe the reason there's a promise to go with this command is because it's of such great importance to God. The fifth commandment is for children. Children should listen with respect and obey their parents because their parents want what's best for them. But this command is not just for little kids. The fifth commandment is also for students. Middle and high school culture often sends the opposite message of honor. Your parents don't understand. They don't get it. They're clueless. They're old. They're out of touch. They don't know what they're talking about. They just want you to be miserable and unhappy. They're trying to ruin your life. Avoid them as much as you can. Don't let your friends see you hug them. Talk bad about them every chance you get. You know better than they do anyway. The fifth commandment offers a different perspective. God says, I gave you to your parents and I gave your parents to you. I know it's hard to believe, but even with all your faults, their faults and failures, you still need them. So honor your parents. Accept them. Thank God for them. Honor them by speaking good about them to your friends. Honor them with obedience. Honor them by telling the truth. Honor them by listening when they speak. Honor them by not rolling your eyes and acting like they're stupid when they talk. Honor them with your love and respect. This commandment's for students. This commandment's also for young adults. It's incredible, but it'll happen right about your second semester in college. It's like a switch flips, and is all of a sudden, as quick as your parents turn stupid when you turn 13, they turn smart again. It is such a wonderful moment for parents. We live for that. But as a young adult, you see and understand more of your parents' flaws. As a child, you thought they were perfect. As a student, you thought they were completely flawed. Now you have a little better perspective. You see where they're strong. You also begin to understand their weaknesses. Although you make your own life decisions, You can honor your parents by asking and listening to their advice, maybe even following it once in a while. Now, guess what? You probably saw this coming. The fifth commandment also applies to adults. It's for the people in their 30s, their 50s, their 60s. In fact, many scholars believe that this command was originally intended for adults with older parents. Because in Bible times, there was no retirement accounts or Social Security. Generations of a family lived together, and your only option when you got old was your children taking care of you. Now, I'm not saying you have to fund your parents' life unless you're Tyler and Parker, in which case I totally expect that. But honoring your parents in their old age means watching out for them, making sure they're taken care of. Don't just treat your parents as an inheritance waiting to happen. As adults, your primary role is not to take from your parents, but to give to your parents, to give them honor and love and respect. When you do that, you honor God and you position yourself to receive His blessings. And there is a spiritual principle: you get what you give. Your parents, your kids see how you honor your parents, and they will not honor you if you don't honor. This commandment's for life. If you're still at home, God's command is to obey your parents and honor them. If you have your own family and you're gone now, it's still God's command for you. We equate honor your father and mother with one word: obedience. But honor is more than obedience. It's easier to obey than it is to honor. You can hate someone and still obey them. But honor and hate can't coexist. Honor doesn't obey because it has to. It obeys because it wants to. Honor obeys because it holds someone with high respect. It's difficult to describe honor, but it's easy to see. You know when somebody honors you, and you know when they don't. So if you're going to obey this commandment, I want to help you out. Just some practical steps, some ways you can communicate and demonstrate honor. Number one, listen. Students, take the earbuds out, your headphones off. Mom and dad, turn off the TV and listen. Everyone, put down your phone. I didn't mean right now, although it'd be nice if you did that right now. Take a break from Fortnite, ESPN, or Lord help us all, Hallmark Channel and Pinterest. Be together. Really listen. Listening conveys respect and honor. Listening says, I have high regard for you. What you say matters more to me than my favorite TV show. One of the things I'm working on is to be fully present. One of my friends, Jim Bradford, is so good at this. When you talk to Jim, he doesn't look at his cell phone to see if someone more important is calling him. He doesn't look over your shoulder to see if somebody you'd rather talk to is coming. He looks at you and listens to you. You get Jim's full attention. I told him one day, Jim, when I lead you, I feel better about me. I want to be like that. Being fully present and listening with focus communicates honor. Affirmation is another powerful tool to communicate honor. Parents, we have a horrible tendency to spend a lot of time correcting and not a lot of time affirming. And you justify it by saying, well, I just want what's best for them. Or I don't want them to make the mistakes I made. I get that. But do you know what? Your family is tired of hearing your correction. Listen to these verses. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they'll become discouraged. Why don't you try a different approach? Instead of blasting on the negative, celebrate the positive. One of the most powerful principles I can teach you, you get what you celebrate. It's an incredibly effective way to lead your family. Let me give you an easy example. Your kid comes home with a report card, 3 A's, 2 B's, and a D. What do most parents talk about first? Absolutely the D. But you get what you celebrate, what you affirm. Start with the good, celebrate the A's. You'll discover that affirmation is contagious. And as you give affirmation, you will receive honor. If you're not receiving honor, instead of blaming them, why don't you check and see if you're being affirming enough? Children of any age, your parents also need affirmation. They get beat down at their job. They struggle and they feel like a failure. When they see you fail, they feel like they're not good parents. They need to hear, I love you. You're a great mom. I'm thankful for you, Dad. Say thank you. Appreciate their sacrifice. Text them and just say, thanks for being a great parent, and then don't ask for anything. It will freak them out. When you tell your parents, I love you, it honors them and demonstrates honor to others. Parents, if you want your children to say, I love you, make sure you're saying that early and often. You communicate honor when you sacrifice your preferences. Instead of only doing what you like, instead, do what your parents like. Take a walk. Here's an idea. Actually ride in the front seat next to her when your mom takes you to school. Take an interest in their job. Tell them about your day. Eat dinner at the table. Put down your cell phone. Listen to their old music. Eat breakfast with them instead of sleeping in until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Parents, remember, honor goes both ways. You model honor when you sacrifice your preferences and you do stuff that your kids enjoy. One vacation, Tyler and Parker wanted to go rock climbing. I'm afraid of heights. For me, rock climbing is in my top 10 worst nightmares and in the top 5 ways I don't want to die. But they wanted to go, so I went. And we climbed and we rappelled and we laughed. I was terrified. I mean, I was frozen at the top of this massive, it had to be a 10,000-foot mountain that I was supposed to rappel all the way down. And I think actually just a big rock, but it felt that to me. The boys wouldn't let me give up or quit. At the end of the day, our guide, Mark, said, I really enjoyed watching you guys with each other. I've never seen a family like you, cheering each other on and not letting each other quit. What he was seeing was honor. It sounds simple, but you communicate honor when you share. Freely share what God has given you with your parents, who shared with you from the day you were born. If you win a Starbucks card at church, give it to your mom and dad instead of keeping it for yourself. Believe me, they need the caffeine more than you. All right? Is there somebody here, if you win the Starbucks card, you'll give it to your mom or to your dad? All right? Sadie, come here. I'm going to check and make sure. All right? I will. If your pastor gives away a Panera gift card, take the family to a meal on you. Who would like to take your parents to a meal? Pick somebody, Nick. Sorry. I can only see people right in front of me. If you'll use it and take your parents to a meal, raise your hand. Nick will come. If someone gives you a bouquet of beautiful flowers, put them in the kitchen so your mom and dad can enjoy them too. Who will give mom a beautiful bouquet? Okay, come here. You will? Is your mom right there beside you? That's awesome. There you go. But it's more than money or stuff. We really don't want your money. Well, we wouldn't mind it, but no, we really don't want your money. Instead, we want you to share life with us. Pick up the phone, call your parents. Share memories. Share a meal at the restaurant you can't stand. Share happy and sad moments. Your parents love pictures. Quit griping. Take pictures with them and actually smile. Pretend like you're happy. Share your knowledge, especially of technology. Instead of getting mad at them when they don't know how to do something, set up their computer. Teach them how to use Instagram without being creepy. Share. Now, before we go, I want to answer a question that I know is in some of your minds. How do you honor flawed, manipulative, or abusive parents? If your parents are mean and messed up, does that excuse you from the fifth commandment? See, I understand many of you have dysfunctional or abusive parents. What does this commandment mean for you? Well, dishonorable parents are nothing new. There are dysfunctional parents and families in the Bible. Adam and Eve had a son who murdered his brother. Abraham told a government official that his wife was his sister. Rebekah manipulated and deceived her husband Isaac in order to secure her favorite son's future. And maybe the best example in Scripture of how to honor dysfunctional parents comes from the story of two best friends, David and Jonathan. Jonathan's father, King Saul, was an angry, insecure, unpredictable man. David was anointed by Samuel as future king. And when David killed a giant, Saul became jealous and tried to kill David. And he even ordered his son Jonathan to kill his best friend. Jonathan knew he was supposed to obey his dad, but he also knew that murder was wrong. So he did the right thing, and he honored God and disobeyed his father. Jonathan warned David, and then he went to his dad and said, "Let not the king do wrong to his servant David. He has not wronged you, and what he has done has benefited you greatly. He took his life in his hands when he killed the Philistine. The Lord won a great victory for all Israel, and you saw it and you were glad. Why then would you do wrong to an innocent man like David by killing him for no reason?" Like Jonathan, you have to honor God first. Sometimes honoring your parents means that you keep them from doing something that will dishonor God. The command to honor your parents doesn't mean you have to do everything they say. Now listen to me. Honoring your parents doesn't mean you never set boundaries. Honoring your parents doesn't mean that you give in to guilt and manipulation. Honor doesn't mean you tolerate violence or abuse. Honor doesn't mean that you put yourself or your children at risk. You may have to say, because of how you've broken trust over and over, I can't be in close relationship with you. You honor them more by doing that than by allowing them to continue in their destructive ways. Enabling or ignoring abuse is not honoring. Honor your father and mother, so you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Honor your parents. Honor your children. Honor each other. And model the love of Jesus for a world that desperately needs to see a different way to live.